Yo, what's up, guys? We're back. We're doing another breakdown and prediction video this week. This week it's for PFL. It's going to be the championships. It's on pay-per-view, the first pay-per-view for PFL. And I told you guys last week if I got 5 comments on my video asking for a PFL breakdown, I would put it down on the channel. So that's what we're doing here. And yeah, man, I mean, first off, just talking about this fight being on pay-per-view, I don't really agree with that. I saw the price was $49.99 too. Personally, I wouldn't put this on pay-per-view. I don't think that PFL is ready to be on pay-per-view yet, but I am curious to see how many pay-per-view buys they get. I don't think it's going to be a very good number, but in terms of the card, I do have quite a few bets. I think there's actually some good spots on this card, so I got 7 bets, and pretty confident I'm going to make some money this week, and we're coming off another good week on the Patreon. We made some money last week, so definitely go hop on there. And man, I mean, just besides that, Thanksgiving is tomorrow, so hopefully everyone that's celebrating Thanksgiving is going to have a good time and around some good people. And yeah, man, I'm really thankful for everyone on the channel, everyone on the Patreon, and really appreciate all the support that I'm getting from you guys all the time. But yeah, so we're going to start from the top to the bottom on this fight card. And first fight of the night, it's going to be Kayla Harrison versus Larissa Pacheco. And this is going to be the 3rd time that these girls have fought. Both these girls have been around since the start of the PFL. They've been head and shoulders above the competition as well. Harrison, she's 14-0. In the PFL, 15-0 overall. She had 1 fight in Invicta, and she already has 2 wins over Larissa Pacheco, and Pacheco is 7-0 against everyone else in the PFL, but 0-2 against Harrison. And currently, Pacheco is on a 5-fight finish streak where she's finished all 5 fights in the first round. It's been almost 3 years for Pacheco to get this fight with Harrison again, so we're going to see if she's leveled up enough to be the one getting her hand raised this time and winning the $1 million. And she's 28 years old, so she's reaching her physical prime. She's riding high on confidence right now, and she feels like she has an adequate game to beat Kayla Harrison at this point. But Pacheco, she had success in the 2 fights a little bit. On the feet, she had the edge. She was faster, more powerful. She has the reach advantage, and I still think today she has a big advantage if they can keep it on the feet. And she needs to have her footwork on point, move, pull Harrison into her jabs, crosses, try to work the uppercuts, and stay off the cage. And she did get close on some uppercuts in the 2nd fight against Harrison and the 1st fight, so she can land that clean. Potentially, she could, get out of there with a kill shot. We've seen that Pacheco has big power, man. She's been able to knock a lot of these girls out, so you definitely have to respect her when she lands on you. And she was able to get the back of Kayla Harrison as well in the 1st fight in round 2, but Harrison eventually was able to turn in, get on top, and Pacheco would threaten off her back a little bit, but overall, Harrison was able to kind of really not have much of a hard time with the submission game of Pacheco, but she did get a lot of her offense stymied, and Pacheco was able to stay relatively safe in both fights, even when she was on her back. But the 2nd fight was not as competitive. She got taken down in every round except for the 5th round, and in round 5, she was a lot more aggressive. She was letting some heavy shots go, and she tried to attack a couple chokes. She was able to keep it standing, but I think pressuring, being more aggressive on the front foot is going to be the way that she has a chance to win this fight. She has to go for it. She has to not worry about being taken down and just try to get that knockout. And Kayla Harrison, she's gotten better since the last time these girls have fought as well. She might not have, improved in terms of striking, I believe, offensively, but she's gotten better with her defense. She has better feints, distance control. She can use her footwork to press girls back a little bit better. She still doesn't really have a lot of offense on the feet. And if someone is going to finish the fight, I think it's going to be Larissa Pacheco. I think she's going to be able to land a big shot early and get Harrison out of there if she wins. Because on the ground, we've seen 8 rounds between these girls, and Harrison has never gotten very close to finishing the fight. So I don't really see her having a big finishing upside here, even though in most fights she is someone that gets finishes. She doesn't really have that ability to knock out Pacheco on the feet, and she hasn't shown the ability to finish her on the ground. So I think Pacheco is probably going to stay safe and lose another decision here. I don't think her getting a knockout is a very high outcome, even though she's been able to knock out some of these recent girls that she's been fighting. Harrison, she, I would assume is going to be durable. She hasn't really been hit very much in her career yet. She's big, and I think she's going to be in great shape too. So I think she's going to be durable, even if she does get clipped a couple of times. And I think it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard for Pacheco to stop those takedowns like you've seen in the first 2 fights. And when she gets on her back, she's shown no ability to get back up to her feet. So unless Pacheco has gotten a lot better with her get-ups or her takedown defense and she's able to keep it standing, I don't really see her having a chance to win. On the feet, I do think that Pacheco is a lot better by a pretty wide margin, but I just don't think it's going to stay there long enough for her to be able to do anything there. So I'm going to go with Kayla Harrison by decision here. And I think the over, I see it's over 3.5 rounds. I think that's decent value there after having seen the first 2 fights. And I also believe Harrison by decision is decent value as well. But now we have the co-main event here with Brendan Loughnane taking on Bubba Jenkins. And this is another fight for $1 million for the tournament championship. And, everyone's high on Loughnane. He's the favorite here. He got the recent win over Chris Wade. But Bubba Jenkins, I think, is a tougher matchup. Jenkins may have lost to Chris Wade, but styles make fights. And wrestling-wise, Bubba Jenkins is more athletic, explosive. He's a higher-level wrestler than Chris Wade. And I don't see Loughnane having the ability to reverse and out-scramble Jenkins to get him tired like Chris Wade did. And I don't see Loughnane being as effective at stuffing the takedowns as he was against Chris Wade versus Bubba Jenkins. I think Jenkins also poses more issues on the feet with his southpaw look, his speed, the clean hands. I think that he's much faster and sharper than Wade offensively, going to give Loughnane more to worry about. The defense is where Jenkins can leave a little bit to be desired. And over time, I think he would get pieced up by Loughnane a little bit. Bubba Jenkins, he keeps his hands low and can get clipped sometimes. He does have a good chin. And I don't think Loughnane is necessarily a guy that has the power to get him out of there, but he's probably going to be able to, touch him up a little bit if it stays standing. But Bubba Jenkins, when he gets on top, and he has really, really elite wrestling, man. He has an excellent double leg. He's super explosive against the cage. He could chain wrestle really well, and he's a national champion wrestler from college. And sometimes, he can let fighters get back to their feet and get tired and end up losing the fight. So his top control can leave a little bit to be desired at times. But I think in this fight, if he can get to the back, I think he could be able to control there, and he's pretty good at getting to the back. But he needs to maintain his gas tank, fight smart. When he gets on top, just look to stay heavy, control position, and then pass and transition to more dominant spots when you're going to be able to get there without losing the top control. And if this fight were 3 rounds, I would actually be very confident that Jenkins gets the job done. But 5 rounds does make it a little bit tougher because I still think Loughnane, his wrestling is not that great, and Jenkins styles poses issues. But Jenkins, if he starts to get tired down the stretch and Loughnane can keep it standing in 3, 4, 5, start to box him up, maybe he can get him out of there down the stretch out of exhaustion, or maybe he could, win a close decision. But I still think Loughnane's wrestling, I don't have a lot of trust in that. I think that Jenkins is going to grind out this win, man. I think he's going to be the guy that wins the $1 million. He seemed ecstatic that Brendan Loughnane beat Chris Wade, so I think he likes the matchup too. And with the beef between Loughnane and Wade, stemming from Wade feeling like Loughnane was overrated and handed things, and I think that also could have led to Wade overlooking Loughnane, expecting an easy fight, which I don't see Jenkins doing. So I'm going to say Jenkins does what people thought Chris Wade was going to do when Wade was a over 2-1 favorite on Loughnane, and what several other people have done to Loughnane in his career, and that's take him down, control him, take the back, hold him down, and win a decision here. So I'm going to go with Bubba Jenkins. I think he's going to come in here and get the slight upset, surprise some people, and get that $1 million in the tournament championship. And this next fight here, this is a rematch from a fight at PFL 2 of 2022 regular season. In April of this year, Ante Delija was able to knock out Matheus Scheffel in the 2nd round. Before the season even started, Delija, he was one of the favorites, and he's delivered. He's gone 3-0. His last fight, he took out Renan Ferreira, who was a fighter many thought was the most dangerous in the bracket. And Matheus Scheffel, he was not expected to make much noise this season. He got knocked out in his first fight with the PFL, and his stock was at an all-time low at that point. But he managed to dust himself off. He won his next 2 regular season fights. He got a big upset over Bruno Capoleza, who won the season last year. And he was able to get another win against Juan Adams in the 3rd round via knockout. Now he's getting not only the opportunity to fight for $1 million, but avenge the loss that he had at the start of the season. And in the first fight, Ante Delija was able to largely dominate. He got an early takedown, but Scheffel was able to pop back up to his feet pretty quickly. Scheffel then did give Delija a little bit of issues for about a minute or 2 with the speed, movement, and lead hand. But when Delija landed, he hurt and dropped Scheffel. It took him took over the fight from there, really. He spent the rest of the round controlling Scheffel on the ground in the 1st round. In round 2, about a minute into the round, he landed a heavy cross that once again dropped Scheffel and then finished him off on the ground with punches. And it was pretty evident that Scheffel could not take Ante Delija's power, so that's going to be something that's going to be hard to avoid in this fight. And since that fight, Scheffel looked good. He's been able to pressure, use his hand speed, combination, slip and rip. But this fight is just tough stylistically for Scheffel because Delija is much bigger, more powerful. He has the ability to work in the pocket and pick his shots well. He's sharp. And he also could take Scheffel down or clinch him, which makes Scheffel not really want to pressure as much as he has in recent fights. To win, I think Scheffel's going to have to try to throw a lot of combos, stick and move, and use his speed and footwork. I just don't really see any other way that he wins. Ante Delija, he's going to want to do the same thing that he did in his last fight. He's not really the highest volume fighter, but try to pick his shots, then the power jab, the crosses, and look to find that knockout. And if the pressure is getting to you a little bit, work the clinch, maybe try to get some takedowns. And Delija is going to be the pick for me. I'm going to say he gets the KO in the first round. I think Matheus Scheffel is going to come hard off the bat and get knocked out. Maybe he'll be respectful because of just getting knocked out by Delija, but I think these two recent wins you'll have will give him confidence to pressure, and I think that's going to be his downfall. So I'm going to pass on this fight. Betting-wise, I don't really see a ton of value on Delija at 230 just because I think Scheffel, these are big guys, heavyweight. Scheffel has been looking a little bit better recently, so I think that the line is a little bit wide, but I do think, Delija is one of the guys you could potentially parlay on the card. Just as a straight bet, I wouldn't really, mess with it there. But I think Delija is a pretty safe pick to win the fight. And I'm going to say he wins via first round knockout. And in this next fight, we got Aspen Ladd, who's set to make her first appearance in the PFL after an unceremonious exit from the UFC. At one time, Aspen Ladd was one of the biggest prospects in all of women's MMA and close to a UFC title shot. If Ladd, when she was 8-0 at beating Germaine de Randamie, I think she would have been fighting for gold in her next fight. But she got knocked out in 16 seconds by Germaine. And since then, she just has not been able to reclaim that magic in her career. She did bounce back and she beat Yana Kunitskaya in 2019, but she's not won since. She's had a lot of issues making weight and started to struggle even more in recent years and had a ton of fights canceled. Down the stretch of her UFC career, she only fought twice in 2 years and had 7 canceled bouts. She lost both of those fights. She fought Norma Dumont at 145, lost that fight. Fought Raquel at 135 and lost that fight as well. Another thing that makes me a bit trepidatious about Aspen Ladd coming in here is how recently she has struggled to make weight and had to pull out of fights due to botched weight cuts that happened in July and August. It's been about 3 months, so hopefully she's good, and this fight will be at 145, but having constant terrible weight cuts as Ladd has had in the last couple of years cannot be beneficial to her career in the long run. Aspen Ladd's size has always been something she relies on to win in fights as well, and that's partially the reason that she's been so reluctant to move up to 145 pounds, in my opinion. Now she's been essentially forced there because of unreliability, getting cut from the UFC. PFL does not even have a 145-pound female division, and they usually make their ladies compete at 155 pounds, so I don't know if this is a one-off or a weight class they plan on introducing in the future. A lot of the girls fighting at 155 pounds in the PFL are 135 and 145ers, so I think the majority of the girls on the roster would compete better at 145, but the issue is their golden goose, Kayla Harrison. She struggles to make that weight. Julia Budd, she's a girl who competed at 145 pounds her entire career up until 2021 when she fought twice for the PFL, and those were 155 pounds. And I'm sure she's not mad. She's fighting a smaller girl in Aspen Ladd here. She, in her last fight, fought a huge beast of a woman in Jenna Fabian, who's over 6 feet tall, that missed weight for 155 pounds, weighing in at 160. And Julia Budd was a girl that, when she signed to the PFL, she was there to kind of potentially challenge Kayla Harrison, make the season more interesting, but she didn't do the best. She didn't make the playoffs, and now she has a chance to get some momentum back if she beats Aspen Ladd and coming in next season if she re-ups with the PFL again with some confidence. But she was a long-time Bellator champion, but definitely on the tail end of her career. Looking at her recent performances, she got unseated by Chris Cyborg in 2020, and since then she's gone 3-1, but not looked the greatest even in her victories. Her last fight was a loss, and this is a huge fight for Bud, her career going forward. She's 39, and I wouldn't be shocked to see her contemplate retirement if she loses this fight, but also she's someone that she's been overlooked throughout her whole career. Before her last fight, when she took the loss to Fabian, she had only lost to Ronda Rousey, Amanda Nunes, and Chris Cyborg. So outside of that, she had some big wins. She'd beaten some high-level females like Germaine de Randamie and some others. And I feel like this is a fight that she can get up for maybe more than some recent fights against girls that weren't necessarily high-level names or had, big standing in the sport. I think getting a win over Aspen Ladd for Julia Budd could kind of prove to her and get her up and make her think, okay, I could potentially, compete with the best girls in the UFC. So I think it's a fight that for her could potentially be a very, motivating fight. And I think she's a great athlete, Julia Budd. She's big, physically strong. On the feet, she's better. She has good pressure. She has a solid jab or 1-2s, 3-2s. She's slowing down a little bit speed-wise, which makes her fights a little bit closer, and she's lowered her volume. But she still has that good pressure, feint jab and counter game. She has decent front kicks, good leg kicks, and she stays active still. Even though her volume is lowered, it's still a fairly high volume. And she's good at working her way into the clinch with her strikes. She's strong there. She has nice body locks, good trips, good dirty boxing, real heavy knees. And we've seen Bud be able to, at least early in fights, control and outmuscle Cris Cyborg in the clinch. And she used to fight bigger, stronger girls. So I think, she's going to be the stronger fighter in the clinch in comparison to Aspen Ladd. And Julia Budd will also mix in some takedowns. She has a decent double. On top, she has good top pressure. I really haven't seen Budd face very many wrestlers in her career. A few times I have seen her off her back. She seems all right, but she was dominated by Cris Cyborg. In the third round, she got taken down and kind of beat up. She got mounted. And Julia Budd was taken down by Caitlin Young, but she was able to sweep and get on top, which, showed at least some acumen on the ground. And against Aspen Ladd, Budd has to have her takedown defense on point, though, because I think it's going to be a different story if she ends up on bottom against Aspen Ladd. I think Ladd is one of these girls that has great top control, can pass into more dominant positions and potentially give Ladd some issues if she gets on top. But, Budd is getting back down to her original weight of 145 pounds, and I think she's probably going to be in better shape. Maybe she'll be a little bit faster than she's looked recently. And really, I think whoever gets on top in this fight is likely going to dominate. And Julia Budd in her last fight, like I said, she's a small 155er. She fought a girl who was over 6 feet tall and weighed in 160.5 pounds. The size was a big issue, but ended up bottom after some good takedowns attempts where she got really deep, where I feel that wouldn't have happened if she was fighting someone similar to her size. And in this fight, she's going to be significantly bigger than Aspen Ladd, so that's going to be something that she has in her back pocket. Aspen Ladd, she's a wrestler. She has mean ground and pound, pretty one-dimensional. She has good toughness, forward pressure, and she's willing to brawl on the feet. She has gotten a little bit better with her kicks, and she'll throw some jabs and kind of straight shots, but she basically just comes forward in straight lines and is a punching bag, but she could take it. She's willing to brawl to get into the takedown, and her lead hook is probably her most dangerous punch. Her kicks have not really been that effective in any fights that I've seen, but she did drop Yana Kunitskaya with the big shot, finish her on the ground, and she was able to gas out Sijara Eubanks by basically Homer Simpsoning her in the second fight, and then landed more shots on the inside in a war. And Ladd isn't the greatest in the clinch. I think potentially Budd could win that clinch battle. We've seen bouts where Aspen Ladd was held against the cage and clinched for long periods of time, but she does have some tricky takedowns even when she's getting pressed against the cage, so Ladd just has to be a little bit weary of that. And Ladd will also try to use the jab or double jab to work her way into the single. And she'll use that single to chain wrestle. She's pretty good when she can get deep at chain takedowns together and eventually getting fights to the ground. And her shots are not set up the best at times, and she could struggle to get inside. She really struggles against fighters with real nice jabs. We saw that in multiple fights, her last 2 fights especially. But if Ladd can get on top, that's where she wants to be and where she's a problem. She has a very good top control. She has good ground and pound, and she's very aggressive. She'll transition in dominant positions, and she's able to take them out the back pretty effectively. And she's finished a lot of fights on the ground. And the game plan for both girls, I think, is pretty obvious. Julia Budd has more ways to win, if you ask me. She's the bigger girl. She's more athletic. She's the better striker. I think Budd probably is going to want to keep it on the feet, use the jab or kicks to keep ahead and stay at range, touch Ladd as she tries to come in. And I think she's going to want to clinch and use her strength and size when Ladd tries to brawl and close that distance, and use her knees, elbows, get Ladd a little bit tired, then disengage and go back to range. If either girl can get on top, I think that will win them the round. And if Budd can time a takedown or Ladd can time a takedown, I think either girl could take each other down as well. So I think it's a close fight. ultimately, I think it's a dog or pass matchup, and I have no faith in Aspen Ladd performing, even up at 145 pounds. I know she's facing an older, a little bit past her prime fighter, but Julia Budd is a difficult style for Ladd. She's a big, strong girl who can grapple. She also has superior striking. She's faster. She's longer. I could see a fight where it's either a split decision type of striking fight where either girl could win, or a win where Budd can win the clinch and dominate. I could even see Budd getting some takedowns and winning by getting on top of Ladd. And I could see Ladd edging a close decision or even getting the finish on the ground. But something is telling me to give the edge to Julia Budd. I just think she's going to be more used to fighting with the extra weight on her. I think she's going to be able to outmuscle Ladd in the clinch, beat her on the feet, and I think it's going to be close. But Aspen Ladd did not perform well at 145 pounds against Norma Dumont. We haven't seen her perform at that weight, and I think there may be a reason why she was so adamant at staying at 135. I think she doesn't want to fight these bigger girls. I think she has maybe felt the strength in the gym or when she fought Norma especially, and doesn't feel like she can compete there. And I think Julia Budd is going to be able to come in here and have a lot of motivation, getting a win over, a big name in the sport. And I think she's going to do it and get one of her last big wins of her career. So I'm going to go with Julia Budd to win this fight via decision. And up next, we got a good fight here. Another fight for the $1 million was Stevie Ray versus OAM. And Stevie Ray looked a little washed towards the end of his UFC run, but in his 3 PFL fights, he's looked a little bit better. His striking mobility seems to be back. He isn't as slow as he was a couple years in the past. And he does have a good left hand. His counter left cross, his left hook packs some power. He has a good jab. He'll go to the body a lot with his left cross, with his jab. And he may be few and far between with his hands sometimes, but when he does land, it's impactful. His defense has looked a little better in his fights with Pettis, even though he got hit a lot in those fights. He was using better head movement. He was a little bit better at pressuring, closing that distance, and kind of smothering Pettis' strikes. And he does have experience in his last few fights fighting a lot of southpaws, so that should help him with OAM. Stevie Ray has been knocked out a couple times, but he's always been notoriously durable. He has great cardio. He brings that constant pressure and pace. He's known to be a demon in that clinch with the elbows. And he's a good grappler, but in this fight, I think he's going to want to stay away from grappling with the OAM. Maybe he's going to want to try to push him against the cage and clinch that way, work some knees, elbows, but I don't think he's going to want to try to go to the ground and actually grapple on the mat. Stevie Ray has a solid double leg control on top. He has pretty good rear naked chokes, and we've seen him pull off that modified twister even on Polaris and in the UFC, or in the PFL, so it's something that he can get as well, that submission he got on Anthony Pettis. Sometimes he can lose position trying to take the back or just passing in general. And he's aggressive submission hunter. He cares more about submission over position, which I think against OAM is going to maybe potentially get him put on his back like it did against Alex Hernandez. And I think Alex Martinez, excuse me, I'm sorry. And I think that, if he ends up on his back against OAM, I think he's going to stay there. I don't think he's going to be able to get back up to his feet. Ray's a guy that will, attack guillotines, leg locks, but he more uses submissions to sweep rather than submit. And I don't think he's going to be able to, sweep and get past that heavy top pressure OAM. I think if he gets taken down, he's going to be cemented to the mat. And OAM, he's been the favorite since the start of the season. He's performed as such. He's been around for a while, and he used to be mainly a grappler, but his stand-up has improved quite a bit, and he's a southpaw, and he's always had that real heavy left kicks to the body and head, but he's improved his hands, his footwork, and he did fight a similar style matchup to Stevie Ray and Natan Schulte. He was able to use a game plan I think he could implement here, and he did a good job of countering off the back foot, working the left cross, left overhand. He was able to land some 1-2s and just use his speed, his kicks, his knees up the middle, his round kicks to keep the range, and when fighters get in the pocket, let off with the 1-2 shot combos and then back off. And OAM, though, if you can pressure him, stay in his face, eat his shots, and, deny his takedowns and just put him on the back foot. He's not the greatest defensively in the pocket. He can get hit a little bit, and I think Ray's pressure on the feet, could make it a close fight. I think it being 5 rounds also makes Ray a little bit more of a live underdog. Early on, OAM is going to look good. He's going to be able to land, stick, and move. And if you can get that clean on Ray, who knows? Maybe you can put him out early. But if this fight goes long in the stand-up, I think Stevie Ray's pressure and cardio will start to make it a really competitive striking battle. I think this fight being 5 rounds is a big advantage for Stevie Ray. And Stevie Ray is going to need to have his takedown defense on point in this fight to win, though. OAM can get takedowns and get rest by laying on Ray, then he could probably maintain his gas tank for 5 rounds. And we've already seen Natan Schulte fight OAM in a really competitive fight where OAM won by split decision. In that fight, OAM was not able to use the takedowns to, take a breath, and Natan Schulte was walking him down with that southpaw, looking inside, landing quite a few shots of his own. And if that fight was 5 rounds, I could potentially see a scenario where Natan Schulte would have came on and won that fight. But in his last fight, OAM did drop Alex Martinez, took the back, held him down, and was able to out-grapple him. But he hasn't really been using his wrestling too much offensively in the PFL. I think that he needs to go back to that in this fight, get a couple of takedowns, and make it an easier fight to win. On the feet, I do think, 5 rounds, I could see Stevie Ray potentially, starting to win that fight down the stretch. But for Stevie Ray, I mean, he's going to have to stay in the face, tack the body, stuff the takedown, sprawl and brawl style. And if he can do that, I think he could break OAM down the stretch. And I would personally line this fight much closer. But I'm going to pick OAM by decision because I think that he'll probably be able to use his length, get some, shots off from the outside just by, even though these guys have similar reaches, OAM I think is better at ranging and striking, throwing straight shots, throwing kicks, and Stevie Ray throws more looping shots. And I think that he could potentially get a couple takedowns and seal the deal with some top control. So I'll say he wins either like 48, 47, 49, 46, but I think this is going to be a competitive fight, and I think the line is way off. I would more line OAM like a -200, and they got him at almost -4 to 1. So I think Stevie Ray does have some value in this spot here. And this next fight, we got a battle with 2 of the better strikers in the PFL. Should be an entertaining fight. Both fighters are very tall, long, rangy. Both are 6'3", but Sy does have the 3-inch reach advantage, and that could be a factor because Dilano Taylor does have a couple of losses to tall strikers earlier in his career. Before the PFL season Dilano Taylor kind of had been a relative unknown. He had been a former Titan FC champion. He just was not really on the scene. He earned a spot on the PFL roster by defeating Mark Martin on the Challenger Series for PFL. And I don't think he was even expected to be a part of this year's regular season, but due to some injuries, he got invited and made the most out of the opportunity. He got a split decision win over Joe Severino. And in his most recent fight, he knocked out Rory McDonald in the first round. That was a big upset. It earned him his playoff spot. He did have a loss to Magomed Magomedkerimov in a fight in between there, but I'm sure he's going to, take going 2-1 and having the chance to fight for $1 million here. Magomed Magomedkerimov is also not in the tournament, so Taylor didn't have to worry about seeing him again. And Taylor's only 25 years old, 10 years younger than his opponent, so we'll see if the youth could potentially play a factor. And Taylor is athletic, fast, powerful, pressure fighter. He's a counterpuncher primarily, so he's low volume, but he has good feints, a nice jab, and looks to land a counter lead hook or backhand, pretty sneaky, accurate. He can catch fighters behind the ear and take them out. He was able to do that with Rory McDonald in his last fight. And fighters who can pressure and wrestle Taylor, they can kind of freeze him up and land strikes on him too. We saw that happen with Mark Martin. We saw Taylor really respect the takedowns of Magomedkerimov, which got him finished with strikes on the feet. And seems like he can kind of really freeze up when guys try to take him down. He's an all right grappler, though. I mean, his athleticism makes him a good scrambler. He's hard to submit. I've seen him work his way out of some bad positions on bottom and get on top. And his top control is pretty good, but he doesn't wrestle in fights that I've seen offensively, really. And he does have good cardio, but he fights at a low pace. For Sadibou Sy, he's a man who's been on the PFL roster since the inception of the company. He was part of their 3rd show ever. He's been fighting for the PFL since 2018. And he's shown a lot of improvement since his first fight with the promotion. His takedown defense is much better. He's been up and down for the most part for the first 2 years in the PFL. But this season he's gone 3-0, and he's had a hard road as well. He fought 3 opponents where he was the underdog, and he pulled off the upset. At 35 years old, he still looks strong and in his prime, but this probably is one of his last chances to get $1 million, so his motivation has to be at an all-time high. And Sadibou Sy is a similar fighter to Taylor. On the feet, he likes to feint, work the jab, some kicks, wait to counter. I do think he's a little bit better at kicking, staying active at range. He has good front kicks, round kicks, nice leg kicks. And, his footwork is good. He has good counter crosses, lead hooks. He's very long, so it's very hard for fighters to get past his reach. And He used to have issues with wrestlers taking him down, pushing him against the cage. In this fight, I don't really see that being much of an issue. And he has improved his takedown defense. He still can be grounded out a little bit sometimes, but gotten much harder to take down. And he's also gotten to be a lot more active in the clinch with his knees and his elbows. I really could see this fight being boring because both fighters are going to be looking to stay on the outside, counter strike. But I've seen Sadibou Sy be better strikers, and I feel he's a little bit more active, a little bit more clean. So I'm going to go with him to edge this fight and say he wins a decision. And yeah, so I'm going to go Sadibou Sy via decision here. And this next fight right here is the last fight on the main card. It's the last $1 million fight with Omari Akhmedov taking on Rob Wilkinson. And Omari Akhmedov, he's on the quest to finally get a title in a major MMA organization as well as win $1 million. He's been ranked in the top 15 at 170, 185 in the UFC. Now he's campaigning at 205. And he's 3-0 so far in the PFL. His last fight, he got an upset on Josh Silverio. He beat Silverio, and Silverio was undefeated, so he took his 0. And Akhmedov is the underdog again in this fight with Wilkinson, so he's going to need to pull off another upset. And Rob Wilkinson, he's looked like a monster so far this PFL season. He went in there 3 times, got 3 knockout finishes, won 5 fights in a row with 5 finishes. And his last loss came against Israel Adesanya, and since then he's teamed up with Israel's team and started training at City Kickboxing. And he's been undefeated since leaving the UFC in MMA, boxing, and kickboxing, so he's competed in 3 different sports. The winner of this fight is going to be, you know, the $1 million winner, so there's a lot of motivation for both guys. And Rob Wilkinson, he's a huge guy. He has a really long frame, 80-inch reach, 6'3", and he's going to have a 9-inch reach advantage against Omari Akhmedov. On the feet, he uses his reach well. He's a pressure fighter, but he's good at keeping the range, landing counter jabs, check hooks, backhands. And when Wilkinson could back an opponent to the cage, he likes to blitz in with some straight punches, and he's dangerous with his blitzes. He has good front kicks, round kicks to the body. His knees are really nasty. His last fight, he blasted Alon Monte with the knee and knocked him out. His defense is not the greatest. He doesn't really have much head movement and definitely needs to be respectful of the power and overhands from Akhmedov. But he's good at using his length to back fighters up and then clinch them against the cage. From there, he has good control, takedowns, and when Wilkinson can get on top, he's very heavy and active. At 185, he's a huge guy, and he was able to win a lot of fights by controlling people, but he also got tired. And we saw him, you know, gas out and get finished in the second round in both of his UFC fights. I think 205 pounds is a better weight class for him, and he's probably going to have better cardio, but he has yet to really been pushing a tough fight, so that's to be determined. For Omari Akhmedov, he's a rough and rugged fighter. He has good footwork, solid boxing, great wrestling, nice overhands, good counter hooks, big power, and he's explosive. He closes distance quickly. Early on in fights, he's very dangerous. And when he can get on top and get takedowns, he has great ground and pound. His chin is a bit questionable. He has been dropped and knocked out in recent fights and throughout his career. His cardio has also been an issue, and this being a 5-round fight, I think it's even more of a concern. And this fight's a bit tough to call. I think Omari Akhmedov could potentially hurt Wilkinson early and even finish him. But what I don't see is Akhmedov being able to grind it out for 5 rounds. His cardio did look pretty good in his last fight, but I think the reach and activity of Wilkinson over time is going to tax Akhmedov. Akhmedov may be able to explode early, land some counter hooks, overhands, but Wilkinson has a chin. He's also good at countering and using his reach, and that should be able to eventually win the day, I think. On top of the fact that Wilkinson can also grapple, he's not going to accept being on his back, and both players have struggled with cardio, but I'm a bit more confident in Wilkinson maintaining his gas tank. He's the younger guy. I think he looks in a little bit better shape, and he's a little bit more suited for this weight class. And the major advantage for Wilkinson as well come in his reach advantage and his durability advantages. He's younger, and I don't really feel comfortable picking Omari Akhmedov here, so I'm going to have to go with Rob Wilkinson. But another thing is Wilkinson is taking a big step up here. He hasn't really fought very many guys or been able to defeat very many guys that are ranked in top 10, top 15 in the world in any weight class, so it's a big step up for Wilkinson, but I think he's going to, you know, answer the call and get the win the $1 million, and I'm going to say he wins via 3rd round TKO. And it's funny, this is the prelims, but I actually feel like the prelims, these next 3 fights in the prelims are probably the 3 most, in my opinion, interesting fights on the card, and this is one of the most anticipated one of them all with Marlon Moraes making his debut for the PFL. He flamed out in the UFC. He went on a 4-fight losing streak, but obviously his legacy is already cemented. I feel like he's one of the most underrated and best bantamweights ever. He had a long run as the WSOF champion, moved to the UFC and he beat huge names. He beat guys like Jose Aldo, he beat Rafael Sanso, he beat Jimmy Rivera, he beat John Dodson, he knocked out the current UFC champion Aljamain Sterling brutally. And recently his chin has not been able to hold up. Since 2020, he's been knocked out in all 4 of his fights, and he's been fighting the cream of the crop and all the best fighters in the world, though, top 5. Obviously, once you can't take a punch, it becomes hard to trust you against anyone, but Sheymon Moraes is a big step down. And Sheymon Moraes is a former UFC fighter as well. He had marginal success in the UFC. He went 2-3 and was cut. After being cut, he signed with the PFL in 2021. He's gone 3-2 in 5 PFL fights, coming off a loss to a former PFL champion, Lance Palmer. And he also has a loss against Brendan Loughnane. Sheymon Moraes, he has not been knocked out in 4 fights, but his chin is also questionable. He got knocked out by both Andre Fili and Brendan Loughnane. He got rocked and dropped hard in the first fight between him and Marlon Moraes. And this fight is a rematch from a previous title fight in World Series of Fighting where Moraes won via 3rd round submission. In the first fight, there were some good exchanges. Sheymon Moraes did land some shots, but Marlon Moraes was able to dominate the fight, mostly due to landing his check hook over and over. And Marlon Moraes eventually landed clean in a heated exchange. He dropped Sheymon Moraes and finished him with a rear naked choke. First fight was 7 years ago, so both men are completely different fighters, and they're in different stages of their career. But I think this is a much more winnable matchup than the original opponent for this card for Marlon Moraes, Shane Burgos. And Marlon Moraes, he's already defeated Sheymon. He's going to have confidence. He's, a guy that is smaller than Burgos. He's not a top 15 fighter in the world, whereas I think Burgos is that. And if Moraes is going to turn it around and make a run in the PFL, this is a must-win for him here. For Sheymon Moraes, I feel as if the pressure is off a little bit. He's going to be motivated by revenge, and he's not only being talked about, he's not really being talked about at all. I mean, this is Marlon's debut with the promotion, and everyone's putting the shine on him. So if he can touch Marlon's chin and take him out, and I'm sure he's confident he can after seeing Marlon's most recent fights, then that's going to be the biggest win of Sheymon Moraes' career. And Sheymon Moraes, he's a long Muay Thai fighter. He likes to work the 2-3s and the 3-2s for the most part. He'll mix up the target, attack the body. He's good on the inside. He has strong clinch work, nice knees, elbows, keeps the volume high. In the first fight with Marlon, he did struggle to get inside, and Moraes, he's very composed. He's good at hanging back and countering, and he forced Sheymon to go first. Sheymon doesn't really have that same foot or hand speed that Marlon does. Therefore, Marlon was able to control the distance, land the counter left hook or straight right hand, and when Sheymon decided to get wild and try to force something to happen after getting frustrated, he got dropped and then submitted. And in this fight, I have to imagine Sheymon is going to look to pressure, rip the body, be aggressive, hunting the knockout, try to force exchanges. Even if you're putting yourself in danger, that's his best chance to catch Marlon Moraes and finish him off due to Marlon's weak chin. If Marlon Moraes can push the pace and, or if Sheymon Moraes, can push the pace, work the body, get in the clinch, we've seen Marlon Moraes gas as well. So him gassing could also lead to him getting knocked out. I don't see Sheymon Moraes being able to take down, work wrestling, grappling against Moraes. If anything, I think if someone resorts to takedowns, it's going to be Marlon. Sheymon Moraes was able to get a couple takedowns in recent fights. He used those to help him win decisions, but it came from fighters overextending and giving easy takedown opportunities, and I don't think Marlon's going to do that. Cardio-wise, I do think Sheymon has the edge, but he comes in pretty good shape, but he doesn't really push a crazy pace. I don't really think he's going to be someone that is going to be able to gas Marlon Moraes out all the way. And Marlon Moraes is still a bad boy offensively, man. He was able to almost get Murad Dvalishvili out of there before getting tired. Still very fast, explosive, dangerous, devastating right cross, nasty left hook. His left hook is what won him the first fight and what he's going to want to do in this fight for Sheymon. If Marlon can control the distance, use feints, pressure, his speed to land counters as Sheymon tries to close the gap, then he's going to win this fight. He has an amazing head kick. He has a great flying knee. He's super dynamic, great finisher. When he gets someone hurt, he'll swarm, has that killer instinct. He can also wrestle and grapple fairly good, even though that isn't in his game. Usually, his grappling is superior to Sheymon Moraes', and I think if he wants to take him down, he can. He just needs to be wary of Sheymon looking for the clinch, to lean on Marlon, get him tired, and obviously, it's very hard to trust Marlon Moraes' chin. If he gets hit once, is he going to be able to take that power? I don't really know, but you look at the recent guys that Marlon Moraes has been fighting, I don't think Sheymon is quite as powerful as those guys. And the fight with Murad, I mean, obviously that wasn't really like a knockout loss. He just got tired and finished on the ground with ground and pound. But Song Yadong, that guy is, you know, a freak of nature, a heavy puncher. When Marlon fought Corey Sandhagen, he got hit with a spinning back heel kick to the head, which probably would have hurt anybody. And then Rob Font is a beast too. That guy has huge power. So I don't think that he's facing someone even close to the level of competition here. I think it's a big step down, and it's a fight that Marlon Moraes can win. So I'm going to go with Marlon Magic Moraes here. I think he's going to be significantly faster, be able to control distance, land the harder shots that put Sheymon Moraes out before Sheymon lands on him. So I think that Moraes, even if he has to, he can mix in the grappling too. And being outside the UFC is going to give him a fresh look, some extra confidence again. I think probably with him being around the WSOF guys who are the same people that run the PFL now, like Ray Sapo and all them, where he was the longtime champ. Probably have some good vibes, good memories. And I'm going to go with Marlon Moraes to get a first-round knockout here. And we got another real cool fight here with Natan Schulte taking on Jeremy Little Heathen Stevens. And showcase fight before the playoffs get started. Stevens and Natan Schulte are two of the biggest names in the organization, though. Schulte's a former two-time champion for the PFL, whereas Jeremy Stevens is one of the premier knockout artists of the last 20 years. Both fighters had a bit of a flop of a regular season. Stevens had two really fun fights, but lost to Clay Collard, and then won via split decision in a bad performance in his second PFL match. And Natan Schulte, he kind of was up and down. He lost to OAM in a really close decision, and then was able to bounce back and get a pretty dominant win over Alex Martinez. But both these guys failed to make the playoffs. And Jeremy Stevens in his last fight with the grappler out of American Top Team, which Natan Schulte is, he got ran through. He fought Matheus Scheffel, who's arguably one of the best in the world, so there's no shame in that. But he was taken down almost immediately with a single, then finished with a Kimura. Horrible showing for him. And he's done better against other grapplers, but grapplers historically are a tough matchup for Stevens. Stevens is really hard to trust as well in 2022. His style is known by everyone. He's been fighting forever at this point, and the blueprint is out there to beat him. Stevens is going to pressure, work leg kicks, throw big punches, some head kicks, flying knees, and try to take fighters' heads off. He has decent offensive wrestling, but, you know, he's just has a lot of things that aren't good. You know, he doesn't really have the best defense. He loads up on all his shots, and it's pretty easy to block and slip a lot of his shots or see them coming and kind of brace for impact. And if he can't land that kill shot, he's super hittable. He can get hurt to the body. I don't think he's quite as fast or as in good shape at 155 pounds as he is when he fights at 145. And he's only 8-13 in decisions. So when fight goes to decision, a lot of times he's getting out volumed. He's getting touched more than he's touching his opponent. And most of the time he needs a knockout to get the win. His takedown defense also isn't the best because he's always loading up, coming forward. And you have to be careful. I mean, he's going to be coming with the uppercuts, the flying knees, and if he lands, man, you're going to go to sleep. But if he puts you on, if he comes forward and you could time that takedown, you could get him on his back, control him, hold him down. But he's pretty difficult to finish on the ground. He did get finished in that fight with Gamrot, but we've seen other fights where he fought fighters like Renato Moicano and he didn't get finished. But Natan Schulte on the feet, he's a pressure fighter. He switches stances. He's super tough, durable. He can take damage, keep coming forward. There's a lot of leg kicks, and he tries to take the mobility away from opponents. He also has a good lead hook from either stance. And he's improved his ability to counter with the left or right cross. On the inside, he does a good job hanging on fighters in a clinch, ripping the body, going up to the head, making fights ugly. And his ability to take damage and keep pressing forward is probably his greatest asset. He has a good high guard. He can absorb a lot of the impact, and he's never been finished by strikes outside of a cut finish in his career. And he's a very good grappler. He has a good single leg takedown. He has decent clinch takedowns. His wrestling isn't elite. He can struggle to get fighters down with good takedown defense, but when he can get on top, he has great top pressure, strong submission game, good guillotine, nice arm triangles, good rear naked chokes. He's a really good scrambler. I've seen some fighters have success taking him down, but Schulte has almost always been able to work his way to top position when taken down. And Natan Schulte is a difficult matchup for Stevens, man. He's a fighter who does a good job using a high guard to block headshots. On top of that, he's super durable. Stevens isn't really the type of fighter to attack the body. The leg kicks are going to be there for Stevens, so Schulte, you know, is going to have to be wary of that. But I think that, you know, he should be able to block or evade most of Stevens' head attacks. And Schulte is going to want to try to get takedowns, too. If he gets on top, he has a big advantage. Stevens is a puncher's chance, like always, but I think Schulte's going to dominate more than likely unless Stevens can get that knockout punch. I see Schulte winning a decision with his pressure, his wrestling, and his grappling here. And this next fight, this is another really good fight here. Magomed Magomedkerimov taking on Gleison Tibau. And Magomed Magomedkerimov, he's a high-level grappler. He's a finisher on the ground. On the feet, he's not the greatest, but he's serviceable. He has decent footwork. He has pretty good distance control. He'll use his lead hand either with the jab, the lead hook, or feint jab to close the distance for the big right hand. And he'll use the overhead or crosses basically to level change under and get in on takedowns. He'll let go with the power right hands and throw heavy. So fighters do have to respect his power. And he closes a lot of distance with the right hand. He'll come the left hook behind it. And if he lands clean, he can hurt fighters. In exchanges, he has decent ability to pull counter. But his defense on the feet, especially when he's being pressured, leaves a lot to be desired. He can get clipped. He can get knocked out. We saw that happen against Ray Cooper. And he got tired trying to finish Cooper and then got finished with strikes himself. But that's the only time he's been knocked out. So he has been notoriously difficult to knock out. I mean, 36 fights, only one finished loss by strikes. That's pretty good. And Magomed Magomedkerimov, he has good wrestling, but he is no leader overwhelming like some of these other Dagestanis. He does have a good single leg, and he could chain wrestle off the single, but he could struggle to get fighters to the ground against fighters with good takedown defense. And his takedown defense himself was a little bit exposed in his fight with Ray Cooper. Magomed Kerimov was taken out pretty easily against the cage. He didn't really have good get-ups off of his back or much danger from the bottom position. And Tibau was probably licking his lips, seeing that. The only thing that Magomed Kerimov has to be worried about when shooting, if he does go the wrestling route, is not to get, or excuse me, that Tibau has to worry about is not to get caught in a killer front choke to Magomed Kerimov by shooting a bad shot. But Magomed Kerimov has a rough matchup here because he's looked at as a huge favorite, but man, I mean, Tibau is no easy out. Tibau has some of the best takedown defense in MMA history, and he has 92% takedown defense in 28 UFC fights. He was only taken down 6 times. He was able to stuff all takedowns from Aubin Magomedov and beat him, in my opinion. And then we saw Islam Makhachev didn't even try to take Tibau down when they fought each other. He just knocked him out. So Tibau, you know, he's a difficult style matchup, man. He's one of the most underappreciated lightweight fighters of all time. Great resume, beating a number of elite fighters. Even in older age, he's still extremely competitive. His last fight was a split decision loss, but that was a robbery if you ask me. On the feet, Tibau is a solid fighter. He's southpaw, short, compact, experienced. Good job using effective pressure, big heavy hooks, overhands. He's improved in the pocket, and he has a good ability to slip and rip with the left hand. Great grappling. You'll pressure fighters to the fence, clinch them, work takedowns from there. He has really good takedowns off the cage, real good top control. He has a strong clinch work. He can make fighters pay for trying to take him down as well. Good takedown defense. He'll counter with punches in the clinch and, you know, make guys not want to try to take him down again. Rory McDonald was able to take the back from standing with some grappling, but I think Tibau is going to have the defensive grappling extremely on point for someone he knows is just going to be looking to take him down at will in Magomedkerimov. And even if Tibau does get put on his back, his get-ups are top-notch. He also pushes the pace and tries to weaponize his cardio. In this fight, Tibau should look to use his normal style pressure, try to slip and rip with the punches, hit takedowns against the cage, clinch against the cage. And I feel like if Tibau can get Magomedkerimov backed up, he probably will be able to take him down. He just needs to avoid getting sniped the big shots against the taller, longer guy. And if Magomedkerimov does land clean, he could potentially hurt or stun Tibau. And Tibau could maybe even get outstruck for 3 rounds. But Tibau's a guy that's really hard to finish with strikes, so I don't think him getting knocked out is a likely outcome. And I think Tibau's a super live underdog in this fight. Style-wise, he's a bad matchup for Magomedkerimov. Magomedkerimov, to me, is the inferior grappler in this matchup, and that's something you don't usually say when you're breaking down a fight of his. Tibau, I think, will be effective with his pressure. I think he'll be able to slip and land some big punches and make it competitive on the feet. I think you have the better gas tank. And I think that Tibau will get some takedowns or at least clinch control against the cage. Magomedkerimov, I think, is overrated a little bit due to his last name. I think Tibau is going to be able to win this fight via decision. And surprise, folks, I am a little bit sketched about judging in PFL, but this fight doesn't have anything to do with the $1 million. So hopefully no funny business goes on. And I still think Magomedkerimov should be a slight favorite due to age and just momentum. But personally, I believe that Tibau is going to get the job done in a good matchup for himself. I see him turn the tables on Magomedkerimov, pressuring, land some counter punchers and out grappling him and winning this fight against the cage. And so I'm going to go with the underdog here, the big underdog. I think he's going to get the win. So I got Gleison Tibau in this fight. And these last two fights on the card, I can't really give big breakdowns here, but with this fight with Katherine Corogenes taking on Dakota Ditcheva. Ditcheva, she's a blue chip prospect. She came off a quick knockout win in her PFL debut. And for Corogenes, I wasn't able to find any of her fights, unfortunately, so I don't really know much about her, but she does train at AKA Thailand. She is 2-0. So I'm sure she's not a terrible fighter, but I mean, just off what I know, Ditcheva, you know, she is a girl that I think the PFL is probably trying to push here. She's fought better opponents. She has an amateur career, whereas Corogenes does not. She has 10 fights to Corogenes 2 fights. So I think she'll probably be able to get in here, get in, get out like she has been doing recently. So I'm going to say she goes out there and gets the first round finish. She's gotten 5 first round TKO finishes. So I'm going to say she makes it 6th one here in this fight. And this first fight of the night, we got Thiago Ali Walsh. He's getting a big opportunity because of his family name. Ali Walsh is the grandson of Muhammad Ali, and even though he's only 1-1 as an amateur, he hasn't really fought anyone. They're giving him a chance here. He just fought about 3 months ago. He won via first-round knockout. His first pro fight in June, he got submitted with a rear naked choke. I wasn't able to find any fights of Walsh's at all, unfortunately, but I'm going to think he at least has a pretty good boxing. His, I know his brother, or I don't know if it's his brother, but someone that's related to him that's also Ali Walsh is a current pro boxer. He's pretty good with the hands. And Walsh is training in Extreme Couture with some beasts, so the training is going to be at a much higher level than the training that Tom Grasser is getting. Walsh is also the fighter that looks more of an athlete. He looks better conditioned, stronger. And he's someone to me that I can't really rate, though, because I've never seen him fight, so I have no idea what we're going to, you know, really expect out of him. Tom Grasser, he's an unknown. I mean, through social media, I found his age, and I found the gym he trains at. And Sherlock and Tapology do not have a fight of his listed, and they say this is his debut. But he does have some fights that he's posted on his Instagram. I was able to watch some of his fights, and he doesn't look very good to me. His striking looks really rudimentary, but that's his best facet. He's tough, aggressive, and, you know, he likes to come forward, throw a lot of strikes. He's tall. He's 6'2", and has a long reach, so he kind of just tries to stay long, but he has no defense, all offense, and it's just all straight punches, really no kind of... He doesn't really have an idea of what he wants to do on the feet. He just kind of just uses his reach and toughness, and he has really bad takedown defense. It's like basically non-existent, but he will try to attack submissions from full guard. He is flexible, and he was able to get a triangle in one fight that I did watch, and an armbar in another. So I think that's probably going to be his best chance to win, is if he could get Walsh to either drop him and get on top, or, you know, take him down and then he could submit him, because we did see Walsh get submitted in that first fight. I don't know if he's really that well, you know, groomed on the ground, but I mean, I have no idea, man. I mean, I think Walsh is the pick for me. I mean, it's a throwaway type fight. Obviously, PFL wants to capitalize off the Ali name, so I think they know what they're doing and giving them this opponent, hopefully, and he should win the fight. I mean, he's a -350 favorite or so. That I don't really agree with. I mean, I don't know how anyone can line him that high unless you, like, have seen him train or seen him fight. But for me, I have really no idea what to really expect here. But I'm just going to go with Walsh, Ali Walsh, because obviously he's the guy PFL is probably going to want to win here. And he trains with better guys. He looks more athletic. So I'm going to go with Ali Walsh. But this is a fight that, you know, I don't think anyone could really have too much confidence in. So, but that's the full card breakdown and predictions for the PFL World Championships, their first pay-per-view card. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys learned something from it. And like I said, at the top of the video, if you want to get access to the 7 bets that I do have on this card, I'm pretty confident we're going to make some money on this one, man. I'm feeling good about it. Then go to the Patreon, patreon.com/MMAPredictionGuru, get access to those bets, and then get to be dropping, obviously, a lot more content on the Patreon for the rest of the year, for some other promotions and UFC content as well. And we're going to be coming back with the UFC whenever they get back and doing shows. So thanks for watching, guys. Hit that like button. Let's try to get 100 likes on this video. That would be awesome. And yeah, as far as the parlay of the week of my most common, I'm going to go with the parlay of Kayla Harrison, Ante Delija, and Natan Schulte. For my most confident pick, it's going to be Kayla Harrison. So thanks for watching, guys. Like you guys saw, I got quite a few underdogs getting wins on this one. So let me know what you think. If you totally disagree, if you think I'm way off base on certain fights, let me know. Tell me what you think I'm missing here. And I'm always going to be appreciative of everyone's opinions and, try to take them into account and, put it into what I want to do. So, yeah, man, I really appreciate everyone in the community. I know everyone has some good stuff to say. So put down in the comments what you think about some of my picks and who you're picking. I really am curious about, who you guys have and want a little bit more interaction on this video. So that would be really appreciated. And besides that, guys, I'll talk to you guys later. Hope everyone has good Thanksgiving. If you're celebrating Thanksgiving, everyone watching the World Cup and doing whatever, hope you're having fun. And yeah, man, I'll talk to you guys later.